A couple of episodes ago, we talked with author Judith Turner in regards to her new book that she just put out recently called You Are Not Alone, Hugs from Heaven. And in the book, they talk a lot about signs that we receive from our loved ones. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what I believe in regards to signs from our loved ones who have already passed and how they've impacted me. My name is Maria Juarez, and you're listening to In This Casa. Bienvenidos. I've been thinking about this a lot, even before I did the interview with Judith, because I feel like, I don't know if a lot of people believe in signs from their loved ones or not. I think people do. I don't know. I know that after David passed, I felt like he would send me signs, and my therapist told me that they were just coincidences that I was attributing to him. They weren't really a connection from him, with him, or from him, from the spirit realm or wherever he is. And I didn't like that at all, because I can't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't feel like that's correct or true for me. And in Judith's book, she kind of talks about that and touches on it on the opposite direction, that like, yeah, they are coincidences, but they're coincidences that your family member is trying to make you pay attention to so that you can read a sign from them at that point. Does that make sense? Like your family member didn't create a license plate that says, a series of numbers that you guys meant something to you guys, like 5 5s, But when you see one on the road and you think of them, that's because they are like, hey, look over here, and you see it, and then you think of them, and that's them communicating or sending a sign. And I feel like I can align with that more and believe and understand that way of thinking in regards to signs. I feel like David sends me signs all the time. I feel like he's been sending me signs since literally the moment he left. I feel like I personally feel like the moment that David left this world, we were connected at it. I knew something was wrong. I felt something was wrong. I didn't know what it was, but I knew something was wrong. And I don't know if that was just my intuition or if it was him coming to let me know that, it's going to be okay. I'm not sure, But like I said, he sends me signs all the time. And the signs that he sends me, I have had people react to me saying things like, Maria, like, that's ridiculous, right? Because they do seem like very coincidental happenings. Or like if I just explain the sign to you, you're like, that doesn't sound like a big deal. Okay, for instance, like one that my close family and friends know is one that's been happening since the beginning is my windshield wipers will go off for no reason. And they will go off when there's not a cloud in the sky, there's no water around me. They'll just go off randomly. And I feel like that's David because we used to fight about, not fight, not like a fight, but like we would fight about the setting of the windshield wipers in my car, because I always like to leave my windshield wiper set on auto. And I don't know why he didn't like that. And so every time he would drive my car, he would turn them off. And then I would get in my car and at some point it would start raining. And then I'd be like, why are my windshield wipers not going on? And I'd realize they're off. And it was because David had turned them off. And then I'd go home and I'd be like, why do you always have to turn my windshield wipers off? So it was just this like thing between us, right? And he would laugh. He just liked to, he just wanted to bug me. So when that started happening, I immediately knew that it was him because my car had never done that prior to me losing him. And then it started to do that. And I would say, David sent me signs doing this. And I stopped saying it to people for the most part because I think people would be like, whatever, Maria. And then I sold my car and I got a new car. And then I got my new car and it was happening also in that vehicle. And so I'm like, okay, that makes it less of a coincidence. How is it that I have 2 vehicles that are now doing this? And I think that some of my family members do know or do believe me now because there have been moments where they've been in the car with me and like I've mentioned this kind of sign that he sends me and then they've seen it happen. And when you see it happen, you're like, oh my gosh. Like if I'm just telling you about the signs, it's easy to have not a judgment, but like to just decide that that doesn't sound like it's something that's realistic, you know? But experiencing things, you know, when you experience them, that's different than someone just telling you something. So anyway, David sends me signs in all kinds of ways all the time. But what I want to talk about is not just the like signs that he sends to communicate. I want to talk about like other ways that he communicates that I feel like I'm learning to understand. And again, this may sound super like hokey or like, but it's not. It's really not. Like, just hang in there with me. So when David first passed, I would get phone calls almost daily. I had a really hard time those first 3 weeks, and I wasn't eating and I wasn't doing well. But in those first 3 weeks, I would get phone calls. Well, no, maybe it wasn't the first 3 weeks. It was definitely after I put him to rest. So maybe like second, third, fourth week. But I would get phone calls from family members and friends or text messages telling me how they had dreamt about David and that they felt like in the dream he just wanted them to let me know that he was okay. And like that would be like almost daily I would get a new text or a new call from a new family member or a new friend telling me that David had come to visit them and in their dreams, and he just wanted to let them know that he was okay and to let me know that he was okay. And I firmly believe that every family member and friend who reached out to tell me, to give me the message from him, believed that he visited them. And because they experienced it. And they must have believed it because they felt like they needed to communicate with me that they saw him, that he visited them, and that he had a message for them and for me. So the reason I want to talk about this today is because I want to talk about the fact that I think that our loved ones in the spirit realm, in my beliefs, I think they communicate with us a lot more than we realize. I just don't think that we are paying attention. And since we're not paying attention, we're just not getting the messages. I know that's like simplifying what I'm trying to say way down, but okay. So what I mean is like in the beginning of losing David, I wanted to go with him. I didn't want to be here at all. And so I wasn't eating. I was basically starving myself. Not just like purposefully choosing not to eat, but like my appetite had gone away with losing him. I just didn't have the will or the urge to feed myself. And I would have continued to do that. And I talk about that with my family sometimes and talk about how, you know, going into that third week, I could feel in my, like when I was asleep, my heart like giving out on me because I hadn't eaten anything for 3 weeks. And I got up one morning after feeling that, and I went and asked my mom to make me some toast because I tell them it's because I knew that I am not supposed to leave them yet. My daughters, my parents, my siblings, they still need me. My nephews, my niece, you know, they still need me. And so that's what I always say to them. But an additional thing that happened that night before I got up and told my mom, or asked her rather, to make me some toast, was that I had a dream. And in my dream, I never dream of my grandma Cleo. I don't think I've ever had a dream of her that I can remember. But in that dream, I saw my grandma Cleo, and the way that I saw her was I was in the dream, and there was this little girl, and something was wrong with her. And I realized that something was wrong with her and she needed help. And so I picked her up and I had her in my arms, and my grandmother pulled up, and my grandmother was in she had this old gray car for years. I don't even know what kind of car it was, but like that car is like solidified in my head, in my image of her. This old gray 4-door car, super long bodied, very, very like squared off. I wish I knew what kind of car it was, but anyway, so She drove up in that car, and I opened the door and got in the front seat with her, and got in the front seat with her with the little girl in my arms. And I told my grandma to go, that I needed, we needed to help this little girl to go, to drive. And then, like, instantly I would be in the back seat. And I got out of the back seat with the little girl, got back into the front seat, and I told my grandma, go, like, go. We need to help her. You need to go. And she just looked at me and shook her head no. And I would end up in the back seat. And that happened a few times in my dream before I woke up. And when I woke up, I felt that was my grandmother coming to tell me it wasn't my time yet. I felt like in my dream, the little girl was me, and I was ready to let me go to the spirit realm. And my grandma, who's in the spirit realm, I felt like had come to me to tell me, no, it's not time for you to go yet. Because she wouldn't drive me. She wouldn't take me. She kept pushing me to the back seat, and she wouldn't drive me. She wouldn't take me with her. So that's the kind of stuff I mean, that, like, I think we're getting signs from our family members, and maybe we're not necessarily paying attention to them. And I don't even mean just like dreams. There's one instance also in particular that happened maybe not even quite a year ago, at the end of last summer. And honestly, I didn't even notice it myself, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to make a episode where I talk about these things, because I felt like David sent me a sign and I didn't even notice it. My mom noticed it. So there was like a moment in my grief journey at that time that I was really struggling with judging myself about how I've been handling my grief journey and the decisions I've made, and if I'm making the right decisions. And because, those things I used to, David and I made them together. We would bounce them off each other, and we supported each other through things. And it's just cruelly ironic that, like, he would be the person I would be talking to about dealing with this stuff, and he's the one who's not here. So anyway, I just was feeling like I'm not doing enough. I'm just not doing enough, I guess is what I felt like. I was feeling inadequate in my journey and what my output looks like at this point in my life, and how I feel about that, and where my emotions were. And I was telling my mom about it at some point. We talked about it, and I told her that I didn't know if David would be proud of me. I wondered if he would be proud, if I was handling things right, or would he tell me to do it differently. And I want him to be proud of me wherever he is. I'm doing the best I can, and I hope he sees that, and I hope he knows that, and I want to make him proud. And she said she understood, obviously. And that conversation ended at some point, and that was that. So within like a week or two later, I don't remember the exact time, but we had gotten home. I had driven my mom somewhere, and we'd pulled back up to the house. And when we got to the house, we got out of the car, and the neighbor across the street, Edgar is his name, he was outside. And obviously we see him outside a lot since David has passed, and sometimes he'll wave, or sometimes he just doesn't say anything. And he's a friendly guy. It's him, him and David were very, very friendly, and he's always been very super friendly and nice to us, and he was helpful, and his family is great. His wife Karen is nice, and we have a good neighborly relationship. And I hadn't really thought too much about the fact that I hadn't talked to him much since David had passed, just because since David passed, I don't really consider the fact of whether I talk to people or not. It's just not really something that I fret over anymore. I mean, I probably didn't fret over it much to begin with, but I definitely don't fret over it now. Anyway, he came over and he was talking to my mom and I, and he apologized to me. He said that he wanted to let me know that he was sorry, because at that point we were getting close to 2 years after losing David. And he's like, I haven't, really come over and, talk to you, see how you're doing and everything. And I was like, it's okay. And he was like, no, I just want you to know that it's not that I don't care. It's just that, like, I have a hard time. Like, every time I see you, I get really emotional about losing him. And so I've just had a hard time coming and talking to you. And I said, okay, I totally understand that. And then he said to me, I know David would be really proud of you. I watch you, how you're, taking care of your girls and your house and yourself. And he said, I, he said, my wife and I talk about it. And he said, I just feel like we have learned so much about grief watching you handle, losing David. And he said, if I was, if that had happened to me, I would want my wife to handle losing me the way that you have handled losing him. So I'm proud of you, and I know that David is very proud of you. And I said thank you, and I was very touched by the sentiment. And we came inside. And when we came inside, again, I don't remember exactly how the conversation went, but my mom started saying something to me about our conversation with Edgar, and she said, she's the one who pointed out to me, see, David is proud of you. And I kind of looked at her like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, I didn't understand where that was coming from. I felt like it came out of left field when she said it to me because I didn't catch it. But she caught it. She said, you told me that you didn't know if he was proud of you. That you just wanted to know if he was proud of you. She said, well, he just told you. He literally sent you the message through Edgar. And obviously I cried. But my point is that I didn't notice it. My mom noticed it, luckily, but I didn't notice it. So I just think we're being communicated with sometimes, maybe through people or through other things from our loved ones, and they might actually be answering our questions or showing up, but we're not seeing it. Yesterday I posted on Instagram, and it was a carousel of pictures, and I put, the first picture was this little sign that said, a little sign to say I love you. And the reason I posted that first on the carousel was because yesterday morning I felt like David sent me that as a sign, because I had dreamt of him not the night before, but the night before that. And it was a different dream, different kind of dream than I've had when I see him in my dreams. Since I've lost him, there's two different scenarios that kind of play out in my dreams of him. And this one was like a third situation. It was completely different. So I woke up, I'm a lucid dreamer, so I knew I was in my dream with him, and I was trying so hard not to wake up. I was trying so hard to stay in the dream with him. But I finally woke up, and when I woke up, I realized that I felt like that was a different dream. I felt like he had come to tell me what he told me in the dream, because this one was different. So then a day or two later, something happened in the world, and it triggered me, and I became super emotional starting Thursday night, and I was just like bawling again, and which happens occasionally to me, in certain instances. And I cry most days still, but like bawling, like I can feel that like gut wrenching loss of him. That doesn't happen every day anymore. But that Thursday night, what triggered me did cause that. And so I couldn't sleep, and I was just struggling, and I got up early. I always get up early, but to this day in particular, I got up and I told my mom, who lives with me, that I was going to go get coffee. There's somebody here working at the house, and so he was already here. So I just felt like I just needed to get out of the house for a second. And so I threw on some sweats, and I asked him if he wanted coffee. He didn't, but my mom did. So if my mom hadn't wanted coffee, there's a Starbucks literally across the street from my house. So I probably just would have gone to that Starbucks, and then I probably would have gone to the cemetery to go see David, which I did end up doing that morning. But my mom wanted coffee, and she doesn't like Starbucks. She likes Dutch Bros. So I drove down the road about a mile at least to where Dutch Bros is. And I ordered my coffee, and long story short, while I was at the window getting my coffee, I saw that little sign. And I felt like that was a little reminder for me from David, because he was already on my mind. I already knew I was going to go to the cemetery after I picked up the coffee to go see him. And I hadn't slept all night because I had been crying. So I felt like he'd sent me this little sign to remind me that he loved me. But again, if I didn't notice the sign, or if I see the sign and I don't realize that he's trying to give me a message, then I'm going to miss the message. And I know that can sound that like those things could be coincidental. And again, like my therapist said, that I'm just attributing these things, these coincidences, to him because I want to communicate with him so bad. I want to still be connected with him so bad. But the truth is that I believe there's still a connection, not just with him, but I think that when our loved ones go on to the spirit realm, we are still connected. And I think they're still connected to us. They still communicate with us. And I believe in that. And I will continue to look at how I can communicate with my family who are in the spirit realm and no longer with us. And I can be open to their communications. And I will be honest about it if anybody is around when it happens or mentions it to me or talks to me about it. So anyway, my point was that I think we just need to be more aware if we're trying to communicate or be connected to somebody we've already lost, because I'm sure they're trying to communicate with us too. And if you have a story about how you feel like your family member communicated with you and you were able to receive the message, I love to hear those things after I post episodes. You know, when people text me or message me and let me know like how they really connected with it. So if you connected with it, I would really, really love to know. But other than that, I hope you come back next Saturday and we can continue to talk about what it's like in my casa. I'll talk to you soon.